Hey everybody, welcome. I'm so excited to be able to talk with you guys. I know many of you are on live. Some of you guys are watching the recording. Either way, welcome to this webinar today, especially about passive income, how to create 22 or really $20,000 plus of passive income in the next year. By the way, hi to Angelo. I can see you're already on YouTube there waiting for us. RW Parker 12. Good to see you as well. I don't, glad you comment. Anybody else is on right now? I know there's several of you starting to jump on currently, whether it's on Facebook, LinkedIn. Say hi. Go ahead and put that in the comments because after a little bit, I won't see these comments here in a little bit. So I know that we're going to dive right into this to be able to give you that content that you need so much of. All right. So today I'm going to talk about, like I said, how do we create 20,000 a year or more of passive income? That's the focus is going to be today. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my PowerPoint. One, to kind of keep me focused. Two, is actually going to, hey, Chuck, good to see you as well. It's been a while. But two, we're also going to be able to really just dive right in. So those of you that don't know me, Chris Miles, anti-financial advisor, right? If you haven't heard my story, I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but pretty much if it's the traditional financial way of spend something, spend nothing, save everything, save it forever, and if hopefully someday you have something, that's not what I teach. I'm not about selling you products and all that kind of stuff. I will say this though, I am going to actually show you like how we actually help our clients be able to create 20,000 a year passive income or more. The average has been about 35,000 a year. But definitely want to share that with you guys today. And yes, of course, there will be a way for you guys to work with us. But I want to just focus on the content, just really helping you guys understand where we're coming from, how we do it, and really how you can do it. Whether you use us or not, that's up to you. But definitely want to at least add some great value for you in this afternoon. So as way of introduction, I live in Utah most of the year. We do snowbird in the wintertime for about a month. The reason is because my wife, when we remarried, we actually have a blended family of 8 kids. I have 6 and she has 2. So as a result, it's evident she loves me a lot more than I do because it was a much bigger adjustment for her going 2 to 8 than me going to 6 to 8. For me, 6 to 8, it was like just add more kids to the chain gang, right? Just chain them all up together, make them do chores, and hopefully they all work in line with each other. But for her, it was a much bigger adjustment. But she did tell me, she said, Chris, I'm going to marry you. I can't do another Utah winter. I'm from the tropics. I'm from Venezuela and Florida. I can't do this again. So that's why we do that. One thing you'll hear about today is I actually became financially independent twice. How did I do that? Easy. I screwed up the first time after the last recession. I ended up going from financially free and independent to all of a sudden in the hole over $1 million. So that's why I had to do it twice. I was able to get out of the rat race the second time where I was work optional. I had enough passive income to pay for my monthly expenses by the end of 2016, but it was a long battle. If anything, that should give you hope, with what we're talking about here today. And of course, we talk about cash flow consulting, passive income consulting, as well as infinite banking. We're not talking about infinite banking today, but we will have a webinar on that in a few weeks. So be watching for that. All right, let's just get right into it, right? The question is this, is if I could actually show you how to create another 20,000 a year of passive income without spending a lot of time doing this, without starting a brand new business that claims you're going to create passive income, but in reality, it's just a part-time job that they're just trying to bait and switch you on. And without having to have a lot of financial training, just like hundreds of my clients have done, as well as myself, already I've done this over the last decade. Would you like to see how that's done? Hopefully, if that's a yes. If not, bye, see ya. But definitely, if you're here for that reason, that's why I'm teaching this, because the number one question I get all the time is, Chris, how did you do it? And I think more importantly, it's not just about how I did it, because you could argue and say, well, that was you. Maybe it was just lightning in a bottle, right? Maybe it was just a one-time fling, or in my case, a 2-time fling. So really, I made lightning strike twice. But the truth is, we have clients that are doing the same thing too. So I really want to get into that and how that could apply for your situation as well. All right, so here's what I'll cover. One is how you find the money to invest, because that's one of the biggest questions I get is, okay, well, what do I invest with? How do I invest this? What are my favorite investments that a financial advisor does not want you to know about? Just so you're aware, financial advisors really are only paid and legally can only offer mutual funds and insurances. That's it. That's really all they're able to offer you. These are the things that are completely outside of that. Although they're outside of that traditional financial realm, it does not mean that they're not popular. It does not mean that there hasn't been anybody doing this. There's literally millions upon millions of us have done these same strategies that I'm talking about today. Yet financial advisors not paid to tell you this. And therefore, because they don't get paid commissions, they don't want you to know about it. It's like asking a realtor if you should put money in the stock market. They're not going to tell you to do that. They're going to say buy real estate, right? So that's the big thing we're going to talk about today. And of course, what does it take to actually become financially independent where you have enough passive income to pay for your monthly expenses in the next 10 or 12 years? Again, results may vary, right? You could be much sooner. We have people that we work with that sometimes in the first year they can do it, and other people might take 15 years or so to do it. So I know it varies, but the vast majority of people that we work with, it does take within 10 or 12 years, usually mostly within the next 5 or 10 years, they can become financially independent. Just as a bonus, just here today, I was kind of deciding on this. I'm going to give everybody what's called our cash flow optimizer. This is actually a spreadsheet that I use to track income and expenses, track your balance sheet. So, how much assets do you have? How about your loans or your liabilities? And especially tracking your passive income as well. And so, for anybody that's here a part of this today, you can email us or get access to this cash flow optimizer. I believe we're actually going to be emailing it afterwards. So, if you're already on our email list, you're probably going to see this come. But that's a tool that I've spent years developing to get to the point where you can use it for yourself. And it's awesome. Now, here's a big thing is I want you to know that this is actually absolutely something that any of you guys can be doing. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say you can do it, right? Because here's the truth. Many people will say, yeah, but what if I don't have enough money to invest, right? What if I don't have enough to be able to do something with? Or what if I, feel like I don't have enough time or I don't know enough? The truth is, it doesn't take that much time when it's done right, especially because that's the whole intent of passive investing. Now, I will warn you this doesn't mean you're hands off, brain off, but it does mean that you have stewardship and management, but you're not the one having to go and invest. This is not about buying a real estate property in your backyard and being the property manager, dealing with toilets, tenants, and trash. That's not what we're talking about today. This is really talking about how to not spend a lot of time doing it. You don't have to have a huge amount of financial knowledge, although you need to know some of the basics, the fundamentals. But in reality, the cool thing is, especially those that become our VIP clients, we actually already have a whole network of people available to you, people that we've vetted. Again, doesn't mean anything's guaranteed, right? But it does mean that we've got people that are already doing this, people that have had lots of experience in this place that already offer these kind of investments for you to be able to invest in. So that's the thing, guys. Just know that I get it. Many of you think that it could be hard. It's really not. The only reason that people think it's hard is because, again, every financial expert, financial advisors, they don't get paid to tell you about this stuff. That's where we do it differently. Now, this is the big theme. If you remember anything from this conversation is that cash flow creates freedom. What do I mean by cash flow? I mean, you have a lot more income coming in than what you're spending. And here's the great thing, guys. It doesn't mean that you have to live cheap. It doesn't mean that you have to get rid of all the joy out of your life and never take that vacation or never do anything, never go out to eat, never do anything that you enjoy. It's not about that at all. This is actually about having more than enough income, including other streams of income coming in to be able to pay for the lifestyle that you want, right? Not just getting you financially independent where, yes, it meets your basic needs, but even financially free, going beyond just the financial independence. And that's what I learned, guys. Like that was a big key in my own life. Now, who's this not going to work for? I'm going to tell you this. If you're somebody you have no savings at all, you know what? Obviously, if we're talking about investing with money, if you don't have any money, then yeah, like a lot of this stuff, these topics we're talking about here, it won't really apply to you a whole lot. It'll be good for the future down the road, but it's not going to help you in the here and now, right? This also won't work for those that are super skeptical. I know occasionally we get some lame person that comments on YouTube, and I don't blame them. They just see me showing up randomly and say, "Oh, well, look at him. He's just some random financial guy talking about it." But the truth is, I'm about as pretty down to earth as you can get here, right? I'm not saying that I don't dream. I'm not saying that I don't have optimism for the future and even your future, but I'm just here to say that if you're skeptical, it's okay. Be willing to do what I like. I like Ronald Reagan's philosophy, which is trust but verify, right? It's like, okay, I got to verify this, but let me at least trust, have an open mind while I'm hearing it, and then decide if I think it's for me or not. And that's all I ask. If you're not that kind of person, you're just automatically skeptical, you're just a hater and a troll, go away. We don't care. I don't have time to deal with it. But if you're somebody that's actually open, awesome. And again, not just open and to learn, but then willing to do something about it. Because the truth is this, is that your life never changes until you make changes. That's the key. So that's who this is not really for. It's not for those that are obviously trying to just get through life and learn a lot. This becomes shelf help, right? Where you just put on a shelf and do nothing with it. Obviously, the whole reason that even though I'm financially independent and I'm doing this is because I want people's lives to change. Hence the name Money Ripples. The whole reason we created it, why I named it that way, is because it's the ripple effect that I want to create of freedom and prosperity and independence for you, like to liberate you, to have you have options. Because I know as you're liberated financially, you have a greater capacity to bless more lives. And that's the kind of effect I want to create in the world. That's my ripple effect, is to help you create your own ripple effect, whatever that looks like. So again, there's still hope. Even if you feel like you don't have money, maybe you're in that category, you're open, but you don't have money, don't worry, because guess what? I'm going to actually give you an offer of something that can help you be able to find more money, because I was in the same position as you were. Heck, in the last recession, I was over $1 million in debt. So I had no money, no credit, and was still able to come back within a decade and still be able to become financially independent the second time. So if I can do it, I know you can too. So here's my inspiration for today. It's my dad. If you haven't heard this story before, see, I was raised by my dad and my mom, both hardworking people, both of the older end of the baby boom generation. Taught me great values. Taught me about your word is your bond. Work hard. Live your passions and do what you love. But the one thing they didn't really have in common was they didn't really have that ability to help me create wealth. Right? They were really of that work hard mentality or do what you love mentality. Well, that doesn't really help if you're trying to create wealth. So as a result, what I'm actually having people do is do the opposite. So I wanted to do something different when I got older. When I went to college, I wanted to do something different. I was going to go into business for myself and being a business consultant, but I thought I should have real life business experience. Well, flash forward, what happens is as I'm looking for a business to start, a financial advisor position opened up. One of my friends said, "Hey, this is a firm I just got hired with. It's really cool." And I thought, I would like to learn about money, because the one thing I heard from my dad growing up was things like, we can't afford this. What do you think? Money grows on trees? I'm not made of money, I mean, how many of you guys, have heard those kind of phrases growing up? The worst one that was here from my dad that broke my heart was he'd say, "I'm going to work until I die. Like, work will literally kill me." And he had heart attacks and strokes by the time he was in his 40s and his 50s. I didn't want to live that kind of life. And so when I heard about a financial advisor position, I thought, worst case scenario, even if this is not my career choice, if I learn something about money that helps me and it can even help him buy another year of his life back, that's worth it. And so I did. I actually ended up starting as a financial advisor, the traditional mainstream advisor, did that for several years. And then pretty soon my dad said, "Chris, when are you going to advise me on my finances?" And so for the first time in my life, because he never really opened up about his finances, he was always afraid to do that. But his first time in my life, he did. And he opened up about his finances and showed me everything he had. He'd stuffed that money in his 401k. He'd paid off his house early and all of his other debt. He'd actually paid off his house in 18 years. He was so proud of everything he did. I mean, this guy would have made Dave Ramsey super proud, because in fact, Dave Ramsey probably is the one that learned from my dad, because my dad's older and he'd been doing that strategy before Dave Ramsey was. And so again, debt-free, stuffing money in his 401k. And as I look at his funds and everything that he's got, all the money available, I said, "Dad, here's the thing. You're 61 years old. If you want to retire today, you better hope you die in 5 years, because that's when you'll run out of money." "Okay, Chris, that's not what I wanted to hear. Give me some other options. What can I do? How can I go beyond 5 years?" And I said, "I don't know. I honestly don't know, because the truth is you've done everything right from this traditional financial advice that's always been given. You paid off your debt. You've saved all your money in your 401k and got the match and everything you're supposed to do, but it's just not enough." And that bothered me, guys. It bothered me badly, because remember, not only had he done it right, according to what my perspective was at the time, but I was falling in the same pattern. I was hoping if I could just say, be cheap enough, like he was a major tightwad, just be cheap enough and save enough money that maybe by the time I'm 40, I'd have $2 million. Then I can live on $60,000 a year, because I could pull out 3% a year. But I realized, looking at my future, which was my dad, I was following in the same footsteps. It wasn't too bright, was it? And when I started to look around, I started to realize, well, of all the clients I've met with over the last several years, how many of them actually have hope? And I remember one of my friends, he had actually been a financial advisor that I hired on. Then he quit to go do real estate investing. He said, "Chris, well, how many of your clients are financially free?" I said, "Well, we're not worrying about money. We're worrying about running out of money." I said, "None. They're all worried about running out of money, even the retired ones." He's like, "All right, Chris, well, how about this? If anybody's proven it to be true, it would be you guys as financial advisors. How many of you are financially free not off the commissions you've been earning, but actually doing these investments you've been recommending. And as I looked around the office, there's over 100 of us. And I can honestly say, none of them. There's been guys that have been working there since the late 1970s, and none of them, I would say, could retire. He said, there is your problem. And guys, this led me down a path to where eventually I was able to realize that it's not about accumulating this big nest egg to live off of, because the truth is the stock market just doesn't do enough to do it. It's actually got to be done differently. And that's where, when I found out there was a different way of doing this, the way I'm going to talk about today, when it happened is later the next year, I was able to become financially independent myself. I was 28 years old and able to retire, which was really weird. I never expected it to work that well. In some ways, it was kind of accidental, but other ways it was intentional. The good news is I'm teaching how to do this intentionally. So it's not just an accidental one-trick pony, right? Because obviously I lost it and had to earn it back again. So that's the thing, guys. That's what I want to talk about. And I'm telling you, like I said, the financial industry doesn't get it, or they don't want to get it because they're not paid to tell you how to do this stuff. And the problem is you got inflation going on. You've got, issues with that. You got the stock market going up or down. And just like what happened to my dad, Y2K was kicking his butt and he just started to see money coming back, but still that set him back several years. So there's things like that happening, right? I mean, we got worry about taxes and if the government's going to spend too much money. Will we even have Social Security later on? Will that be enough to last us, right? And how long will it take us to get there to be free? Will we work until we die? Will we die working? Will we have enough time to even spend time with our kids? All these things are becoming an issue. And the problem is you got guys like Dave Ramsey out there saying, yeah, invest $100 a month for 40 years. You'll make 1.176 million. The problem is this, guys, is that one, he can't even do math because I just did the math for him at the 12%, which is not what the rate of return of the stock market has been. And look, it's $979,000. He's $200,000 off because the freaking guy can't do math. And on top of that, he's got people like Michelle right here on this comment. If you can see here, it says, I followed your advice since I was 18 years old. Now I'm 50 and I lost my retirement in the stock market. What should I do? Here's the problem, guys. They keep going back to the same people that haven't made them wealthy in the first place, right? That's not good. I like some of these other comments too that come up. Like you see here, what do I invest into? No one teaches these things. Well, guess what? We are right now. Here's another one. 1.1 million in 40 years. Couldn't buy me 2 movie tickets, bro. Yeah, because inflation is kicking our butt. And that's the other person's problem, right? All of these headwinds, all of these issues that people really aren't addressing. And of course, like I mentioned, taxes. I like this meme right here, with your 401ks, your IRAs, and the government saying, hey, I've got over $30 trillion debt. Where do we get that money? Oh, I know. Baby boomers, which are a huge group, they're retiring and they're eventually dying. Maybe there's ways we can adjust taxes on either the income taxes when they're taking the money out, or just get it at death if they haven't spent all their money by that point. And that of course is worse for us Xers, myself, and even worse for the millennium generation, which millennials are even bigger than the Xers. Like there's just so many issues going on. And here's the real issue. If you can't find a reason to make, or you can't find a way to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die, as Warren Buffett said. That is why we need multiple streams of passive income. So I'm going to challenge you guys to take this red pill right now. Rather than the blue pill, you can just go back to living your life. But I'll tell you, it's been proven that financial advice has not worked. I've seen the evidence of it. I've seen many, many financial advisors over the last 21 plus years I've been in this industry. And I'm here to tell you, it has not worked. I've seen the evidence of it, and many financial advisors have as well, but they keep teaching it because they know that they'll lose money if they tell you otherwise. They can't retire themselves, and that's why they have to keep telling you this crap. And many of them will tell you the stock market's the best. You put $1 in 1928, right? Like this Ibsen chart you might see from a financial advisor, and then it's supposed to be $50,000 down the road. But here's the reality, guys. This real estate market's done better, right? I mean, you'd think. Somehow it's done better, but they show you the price index and shows that real estate's done nothing. Just like it shows here, like, well, stocks are way better to go. Well, they don't understand cash flow and passive income. That is where stocks can't do it. Let me show you how. So I took a 5-year period. I took the same time in the stock market. Now, granted, the stock market has gone up since I ran this chart. This chart is 2 months old. It's now about 10% higher total, not average. The average is now closer to about 9% in the last 5 years in the stock market. But I also bought this property here on the right-hand side, which is a property I bought in Memphis. So I said, what if I took that $32,000 I put as a down payment in Memphis, and that includes closing costs, and just put that in the market? What would be the difference? Well, you see here on the left-hand side, the $32,000 stock market would be $48,000. Now I would say, I would even just venture to be aggressive and say now it's $53,000 as of today's stock price, which is hitting some of the highest highs it's had all year long. So let's say it's $53,000. That's still over a 50% rate of return in 5 years. Not bad. But check out what my 32,000 did when I bought that property, because I didn't just earn one rate of return. Guys, I made cash flow in the meantime. I was making over 12% a year, cash on cash return. Now it's like closer to about 17, 18% a year. So I made a ton of money on the cash flow side. I've also made money from the appreciation that I did nothing for. And my renters pay down my mortgage payment that I had. They pay down my mortgage balance for me. And of course, I didn't even include tax advantages. I left that out of here just to make this play devil's advocate against my point here. So in total, I made about 134,000 with that same money versus 50,000 or so in the stock market. And even then, I can't control anything with that. So guys, that's almost triple. Even on the cash flow side of things with actual passive income, if you were to try to pull out the 3% a year on that 50,000, that's roughly about, if you're looking at a per year basis, $1,500 or so a year, right? $1,600 a year. We'll even go up to $1,700 a year, we'll say. So $1,700 a year that you're able to pull out versus on my property right now is over $6,500 a year. And by the way, that's before the rent just went up recently. So it's actually a little bit more now. It's closer to about $7,500 per year is what I'm earning. So think about it. Say $1,600 per year versus $7,500 a year. I'm making at least 4 or 5 times more on the income side, and I pay less in taxes. That's the difference, guys. And as a financial advisor, I was never taught this. I was always taught to look at the price of the house. It's like, oh, if you buy the house outright in cash, but I don't have to. I can get a mortgage on that, and whatever ends up happening, I create a multiplier effect whenever it does appreciate. And by the way, somebody, I guarantee somebody watching this right now will play devil's advocate and say, oh, but if there were no appreciation, you would have made that much money. Here, here's the thing, guys. Without appreciation, if it did 0, I still increased between my cash flow and and that's net cash flow, that's my net profit, and the fact they paid my mortgage down. So even if it stayed the same, I still made 100% return in 5 years. So I still made double whatever the stock market did. And no, I don't deal with them myself. I don't even know the tenant's name. The property manager deals all of that. So that's the difference, guys, that I was still hands off, very passive with this property, yet made a lot more despite appreciation. Depreciation, that was just gravy. By the way, the real return on the stock market, it's actually a little bit higher now. It's closer to about 7.7%. 2 months ago it was 7.65, but it's bounced up a few hundred points on the S&P. Still 7.7 over 30 years. Not 10, not 12%, 7.7. That makes it a lot worse because when you start, I'll get to that. I'll just add this little bonus tip here. Dave Ramsey, when he says that it's a 12% average, just know mutual funds don't earn that much. Most mutual funds never even earn the same rate of return of the S&P 500, which, like I said, has been 7.7%. That means most of your mutual funds are doing less. Fidelity, if you have a Fidelity 401k, and chime in right now in your comments if you have it, the Fidelity 401k, their funds tend to do between 2 and 2.5% or more less than the stock market. If you have that target date retirement fund of like 2050 or 2060, or even worse, if it's like 2025 or 2030, it doesn't even make that much money. But you'll see that you'll end up making at least 2% less. So if the average is 7.7, after you pay your fees in that, you're lucky to net about 5% a year in your 401k. And then the match adds over time, even with a 100% match, it only adds about a 2 to 3% average rate of return over that period of time. So you're lucky to make 7 or 8%. Once again, same thing, not 12 like what Dave Ramsey preaches, right? That's the problem, guys. Like I taught the same faulty things as a financial advisor because I was taught to give average returns, not actual returns, not the average actual yield. I was taught to do it differently. So here's my advice for you guys. Here's the 3 things that you need to do to start creating more passive income right now is get lean, get liquid, get out. Get lean, get liquid, get out. Remember that. Get lean. Here, I'll just briefly talk about that right now. Get lean just means be a wise steward of your money. Doesn't mean you don't cut out your latte if you love your latte. It doesn't mean you cut out fun. It doesn't mean you cut out your golfing. It doesn't mean you cut out your vacations with your family. You can still do those things, but prioritize. Spend money on things that bring you joy. Get rid of things that do not. So that's what I mean by get lean. Like get your expenses down as low as you can. One client I'll mention here later, we got our expenses down about another $4,000 a month before we started investing her money. That just makes it easier for them to get out of the rat race faster, right? So really find ways to get lean without getting depressed. That's what I'd say. You don't have to live on rice and beans or live in a cardboard box to do that, but definitely be a wise steward of your money. And we teach a lot of that in even our cash flow process. Get liquid. Warren Buffett right now has got over $130 billion in liquid assets. Even though this says 120 billion, he actually just recently upped it by May. They announced that he's now got over 130 billion just sitting in cash. Now, why would somebody want to have 130 billion sitting in cash? Because he wants to be liquid, waiting for those right opportunities to get out. And that's what I wanted to talk about here is you want to get liquid, right? So by the way, before I talk about getting out, let's talk about how to get liquid. Here are the places. In fact, if you take our passive income calculator on moneyripples.com, here's the places that we're usually looking in general to find money that you can use to invest to get that money out and making cash flow and passive income for you right now. Bank savings, checking, savings, money markets, CDs, all that kind of stuff, right? Brokerage accounts, if you have that. Anything that's sitting in a bank doing nothing, earning 0.nothing%, and then you get taxed on 0.nothing%, could probably be used to be done better. So do you have bank savings? Do you have life insurance cash value? Do you have like a whole life or a universal life policy? Could we be using that money to then invest? Do you have mutual funds? And I don't mean mutual funds like in your 401k at work. The one place that's not liquid is your company 401k that you're throwing money into. In fact, one of the best ways to get liquid, let me give you a bonus tip here, guys, is stop throwing money and throwing away your money into that 401k. Regardless of the match isn't worth it. If the stock market tanks, you don't want to be throwing $1 while they flush down your other dollar from your employer, right? We don't want to keep throwing money down the toilet. You want to have that money liquid and in your possession so you can make the choice of what to do with your money. Like I mentioned, those 401ks, especially if you got Fidelity and those kind of funds, they just don't do well. Even the S&P 500 funds stink because they keep charging you extra fees on those 401ks. So mutual funds, do you have just normal mutual funds? Maybe you have old 401ks or IRAs or even Roth IRAs. There's things you can actually do. You can actually invest with those, whether you keep them in there or cash them out. And there might even be ways to cash them out to where you can actually still reduce your tax burden and get that money invested to generate passive income right now. Even if you're not 59 and a half, even if you're not retirement age. If you are retirement age, awesome. There's lots of options there too. But you can actually use your old 401ks, not with your current employer, but old 401ks and IRAs and Roth IRAs to invest. Do you have rental properties? And do you know if those rental properties are really returning a lot? So if they're not, in my opinion, if they're not returning at least what's called a 10% return on equity, that's a problem. What that means is this: if you have 100,000 of equity in a property, if you have a rental property has 100,000 of equity, it should be paying you, in my opinion, at least 8 to 10,000 a year. If it's not, and that's after all the profits, after all the expenses are taken out and all the actual profits, if it's not paying you that much, you might want to look at moving that money elsewhere because you could be doing something better with that money. Home equity. Do you have money locked up in your home? Now, we have to be careful with this because interest rates are higher. And in fact, as of today, I've been telling people, don't you dare refinance. Wait at least till the next week or two when it starts to come back down again, because it will. You'll watch it. Promise me. I promise you, you'll see it. But there might be ways to access home equity that could be used to generate a higher return than what it costs you to get that money. So you can actually make, in a sense, infinite rate of return on your cash flow because you're not actually pulling money out of your own pocket. You're pulling money out of the equity of your home that you did nothing for. It just grew without you doing anything. Use that equity to then invest and make more with it. And then, of course, if you got gold, silver, crypto, things like that, it's okay to have a little bit of that stuff. But I see a lot of people that have got crypto just sitting around and they're like, well, I just got to wait for it to come back. What if it doesn't come back? Now you're losing time. You're losing opportunity on that money. Here's the investments you could be doing. And it's not limited to just this, but these are some of the main categories that we look at when we're working with our clients one-on-one. One is turnkey rentals. So remember when I mentioned about my Memphis property, but I don't manage it? I don't deal with the tenants. I just collect the checks. That's what a turnkey rental is. I have a company that helps me find the rental for me. They help me even get the financing through a bank or whatever it is if I don't have my own bank. And then from there, they even line me up with a property manager if they're not the property manager themselves. So I'm completely hands off other than buying the property and just saying, yeah, I like that one. Almost like picking from a buffet line and saying, yeah, let's go with that one. And then that's it. Now, is this completely 100% passive? It might not be. There could be problems. There could be times where tenants don't pay on time. There could be issues where there could be some repairs. But there are ways to limit and reduce your risk in those kind of investments. Lending or notes. Do you realize that you could also become the bank? And right now, because interest rates are going up, there are more and more investors willing to borrow your money and pay you double-digit returns. That means 10+% on your money per year contractually. So they're actually lending type of things you can do. You can do short-term lending, even where you give the money to them for a few months, then turn around and make a return. I actually just had somebody recently where They were reaching out looking for a short-term 3-month type of lending. And they said, I'll pay 15%. And I said, I'll do that. And I lent them the money, so those kind of things you can be doing. There's also funds. And these are not like mutual funds. These are not REITs. I had somebody ask me like, "Oh, do you invest in REITs, which are real estate investment trusts?" No, those are mutual funds. We don't do that kind of stuff. Funds mean that somebody might be pulling their money together to go do real estate projects. So, and there might be in multiple real estate projects so that you're spreading your risk a little bit more. But again, a lot of those might even set a contractual type of interest rate that they pay you. Doesn't mean, of course, it's risk free. Doesn't mean it's always guaranteed, but that's what they're going to pay you contractually, assuming that their business doesn't blow up, right? Again, this is why we look for people that usually have at least 10, 15 plus years of experience in the real estate field before we ever want our clients to connect with them. But there are funds out there that I know some of them pay our clients 10, 12 plus percent. Apartments. You can invest in apartments, but if you don't have all the cash to pay into it, you can pool your money with other investors to go invest in apartments. These are called syndications. You pool your money with other investors and have an ownership interest in an apartment building, which means you make the cash flow, the profits, and whenever they decide to sell it down the road, which a lot of times if the value goes up, you get the profits on the sale too. So you get paid twice in that sense. Self-storage units, great one that's often recession resistant. It's not recession proof, but it's great in recession a lot of times. Self-storage units don't even have tenants, right? And even if they have their junk in it, guess what? If they don't pay, you lock it up electronically and you get their stuff out and you say, here, pick up your crap. You haven't paid me. Next, you move the next person in. Good news is, again, you don't manage any of this stuff. You're not dealing with the day-to-day operations. Someone else, that if you get somebody that's good quality operator, they deal with all this, and then they pay you either a contractual interest or they're paying you returns off the profits. Oil and mineral rights. Hey, if you're going to have to pay more at the gas pump, might as well make some profit off it, right? And the truth is, I mean, even Biden and his administration even admitted oil is not going away. In fact, they expect, even with electric cars, that only 10% of people will have electric cars by 2050, and that oil prices will continue to rise because the demand of oil will keep going up. So those that say, oh, don't do oil, guess what? It's actually been some of our clients' favorite investments in the last couple of years because of that very reason. And then there's partnerships. I have a partnership where I have a company that we partner together. I give them the money, they do all the work, but we're buying and selling raw land. But right now, I've had about total invested about $250,000, and of that $250,000, it generates about $7,500 a month for me. Again, as a disclaimer, it's not guaranteed. I'm not saying that's the case. It can go up or down depending on what's going on with the properties, but that $250,000 is about $600,000 worth of properties that now I'm getting paid about $7,500 a month on. So there's a lot of cool things there. There's even franchises. There's even things you can get invested in, like car wash businesses. There are so many different ways in this alternative investment space. Many people call it Main Street investing, especially in the real estate space, because that's Main Street. It's actually what's been historically more popular versus the stock market, which became more popular since the 1970s because all the financial advisors came on the scene pitching you and selling you this crap. But this is the stuff that's been going on for decades, centuries, even for some of these strategies. It's not a new concept. So to be able to do this and be able to make, like I said, double-digit return, this is why it works. So let me give you an example of some of our clients are doing this. I actually just asked for an update with one of my clients here. He actually got to the point where he said, hey, I'm now positive $7,500 a month. He had all this equity trapped in his property. I said, instead of just trying to pay off your debt and trying to make a few $100, what if we took that money and invested it? The crazy thing is, just because he's now investing his money in different places outside of the stock market, he hit that 7,500 without using the equity of his other properties, his rentals, which really he probably could. So now he's looking at other options to see if he can move money over and do some better things with it, make a better return than what he's making. But I told him, I said, if you actually took my advice from day one, within 5 or 6 years, he would have been over $10,000 a month by this point. So he's a little behind. Here's another couple here. Like I mentioned them before. We freed up about almost $4,000 a month and then started investing. They still have some money in stocks, so they haven't cashed out all $5 million. But not only did we free up $4,000 a month, their tax savings actually is not 5 or 10,000. It was actually more like 20,000 plus that they're saving per year in taxes, because we have accountants and attorneys and people like that on our team. They did sell a rental to improve their cash flow by another 2,000 a month. So you can already tell, if you take the 20,000 plus the really 5,800 a month, I mean, now we're in the ballpark of, I don't know what that is. It's probably about 8,500 a month already. And that doesn't include the stocks they've been selling off to then invest as well. So they're well over 10 grand a month, and their goal is not even that close. But like I said, if they cash out all their stocks, It could actually be much higher than that. They could actually have at least a few $100,000 a year coming in passively. This woman right here, we're actually trying to get her on a podcast right now. She didn't have millions of dollars to invest like this last person, but she had about 650,000. But between oil investments and then doing some of those debt funds, like I mentioned, like you can lend money into a debt fund, you get paid a return off that. She had another real estate fund she did about $76,000 a year. In fact, I just found out this morning that she became officially financially independent. So it might even be higher than this number now. This was as of last year. But just found out this morning, she's officially out of the rat race, work optional, where she can keep working if she wants to, or do whatever she wants. This guy right here, we spent a lot of time trying to refinance his farmland. Finally got his money out. He's getting money into oil investments. That's kicking off about 100,000 a year there. He's got some short-term investments he's been doing back and forth, getting paid on that money. He's actually looking to do some raw land, like what I'm doing in a partnership. There's also another development partnership he did, some turnkeys, and then some other outside investments that weren't ours that he decided to do on his own. But in total, about 230,000 a year. Here's the crazy thing, guys. His goal, he's like, man, if I could just make 10,000 a month, 120,000 a year, that would take off so much pressure off me right now. Well, now he's pretty happy. He's definitely happy that now he's got a lot more cash flow coming in than that. Now, this person, this is actually a real person, but not one of our clients. I was at a financial advisor conference recently. Yes, I go to those occasionally, and it's always painful. But this guy is actually a friend of mine, this financial advisor, and he was talking about his system. He said, hey, I've got this 54-year-old attorney. He focuses on attorneys mostly. His income's 400,000 a year. He's basically got 1.7 million IRAs plus another 350,000 savings, and he's putting away 4,000 a month. But this guy's income goal is 180,000 a year. I thought, okay, let's compare this guy's strategy using the stock market with real returns versus mine with even conservative, better than typical returns than what they get with me. So at age 65, he keeps doing what he does with this guy, invests it, say he makes 8%, which I know is a lot more than I'd expect. 8% IRA, he would have 4.8 million. But again, like this guy, at 11 years from now, there's still inflation. That's more like 2.8 million with conservative inflation. And so really his income per year is about 144,000 or 84,000 a year, not quite the 180,000 he needs. So the only way he can either retire is one, have no inflation, and then he actually will be able to retire by about 67.5, pulling off that 3% a year. If he has 5% inflation, he needs to save either $350,000 a year, which, as you know, his income's 400,000. That's pretty hard to do. Or invest somewhere where his rate of return is 16%, or just wait until age 88. And usually by that point, in reality, what most people will do is they'll get to their 70s into their 80s and just say, well, the chance of me dying sooner than later is now increased. Okay, I'll just retire now and just see how long I live, right? And that's kind of what's happened. So that was his plan. So even then, he couldn't get to the 65-year retirement goal. And this guy's, again, got like I said, almost really $2 million to invest, and still it's not enough. By the way, did you know there's a stat that came out recently? People were surveyed, those that were 401k millionaires, meaning they had more than $1 million in 401k. Did you know that 35% of them said, quote, it will take a miracle for me to retire, unquote. That's what they had said on the survey. 35% of 401k millionaires don't think they can even retire because they realize if you pull out 3% of $1 million, that's only $30,000 a year. If they want to be able to pull out $100,000, they need to get their money up to like 3.3 million. And that's if inflation doesn't even go up, right? That's the problem. Here's what he could do with us. This 54-year-old with our way, he's got the IRA making 10% a year. Guess what? At age 65, he's got 5.8 million. He's also, that's 3.4 after inflation. So just do the math. 3.4 million making 10% is 340,000 a year after inflation. That's already better than 180,000 a year. So like I said, showed here, 588,000, 340,000 a year. If there was no inflation, great. He could retire in about a year and a half, even after the 10% penalty, because he's not 59 and a half yet. But again, if there's 5% inflation, guess what? He can actually hit that $180,000 goal by age 56 in 2 years. How? Because if you have 1.7 million and you get paid 10% a year in cash flow, that's already $170,000. You get it? So all he needs is another 10,000 a year and he's there. Or he makes 11%, he's there. But again, I'm trying to go off of lower numbers. Many of our clients average at least 10% a year. That's why I use that number. This guy we had on our podcast, he had $1 million in his retirement account, And the financial advisor said, great. Well, you could pull off 3% a year, 30,000 a year. And Dan said, forget that. Started investing, doing stuff with us. And he did some other investments as well. Got himself to the point where he had over 11,000 a month coming in. So Louis, I had him on my podcast recently too. He just said a few months ago that he actually got to 87% of his goal for becoming financially independent. This guy actually works on movies and stuff as a set dresser out in Hollywood. And so he's like, I'm almost there. He's like, if I want to have like real comfort, I'm about 58% there. But he's like, man, I've only been doing this. Really, he's been doing this since 2019 is when I started helping him. By the way, 2020 was great because he had passive income coming in that helped him when Hollywood went on strike, which sounds like they're doing again as of today. Writers and actors are now on strike. So all this inconsistency with potentially his industry doesn't matter when you have passive income coming in to help you out. Even this guy, Eric, we had him on my podcast as well. He's like, yeah, I'm about 60% there. Worked with us for the last year so far. Like he said, he thinks his biological clock is ticking like in My Cousin Vinny, right? So here's the thing, guys. If you want to have 100,000 cash flow goal in 10 years, this is what you need to do depending on where you save. If you save in a mutual fund earning the 7%, which I think is a pretty decent number for a mutual fund, you better start saving about $20,000 a month so you can live on 100,000 a year of cash flow. So good luck there. If you improve it by 3%, you have an investment at 10%, like what I talk about here, $49.65 a month. So you can save about $5,000 a month versus $20,000. Makes a big difference. If you earn 12% a month, which some of our investments can do that or have done better potentially, now it's like $3,700 a month. It's a lot. And this is starting from zero. This doesn't imply that if you already have savings, you already have a head start. This is if you're just starting from scratch. So when people say, can I retire in 10 years with a 100,000 goal? Yeah. I had one guy that I did a podcast for on our Money Ripples podcast. I left him anonymous, but he actually is using his life insurance combined with his investments, his rental properties, to do it also within 10 years. And he's just really saving about $15,000 a year. But his goal, granted, is only $5,000 a month. It's not, 8,300 a month. It's not that much. He's just trying to do 5,000 a month. But again, he's got that head start. Here's the good news. Here's the thing. Like if you've got at least 150,000 that you could get liquid, I can guarantee we can help you, right? I'll just say that from our one-on-one consulting side, become our VIP clients, we can definitely help you if you have at least 150,000. Why? Because 150,000 making 10% is 15,000 a year. And we want to make sure you make more than what you pay us. So that's why we set that number there. If you don't have any money, like I said, here's a promise. There's we have a cash flow secrets course that you can buy for like $90, $97 or whatever. That one right there teaches all the things that I had to do to find the money, especially when I was building myself back up again after the last recession to be able to have that much money to invest. So the cash flow secrets course, definitely look into that. If you're just starting from scratch, you're like, I don't even have money. I'm paycheck to paycheck. This is exactly for you. Now, here's the thing I would ask for you guys to do, especially if you have some kind of money, you're not sure how much passive income you could create. Here's an easy way to tell. Go right to our website, moneyripples.com, and you'll see right on the homepage, it says, I have the arrow pointing to it, try our passive income calculator now. It takes just a few minutes to fill out. It's just about 10 questions. Really trying to see what we can do for you. This is actually my brain put into a calculator, literally. I actually had a guy who was an ex-NFL football player that said, he's like, well, here's kind of my situation. And he just told me for about a minute or two. He said, well, we probably should have a longer call so we can see how much you can actually do. And the funny thing is, even when he did the calculator, it was exactly the number I had in my head. So for me, it's not that hard, but it's kind of cool for you to be able to see what that is. If that number is over 15,000, you need to be reaching out to us. If it's less than 15,000 a year, then I'd recommend what they talk about there on the site, which is our Wealth Accelerator Academy. Now, the Wealth Accelerator Academy, here's what's cool. This is all of the education that we give our clients, all of it, right? Now, this doesn't have the one-on-one, hand-holding and attention, helping guiding you along the process and connecting with investment deals. Although there are a few investments that are mentioned in that program, they're more like lower entry level, like $1,000 minimum type of investments that you can get into if you chose. But it has all the education to teach you, one, how to create all that cash flow, the same thing in the cash flow secrets course, but it also adds how to protect yourself, how to know like what kind of entities you can do to help protect yourself that way, even insurances, things like that. Even talks about passive income and in different investments. And we talk more about that in detail, even how to do due diligence to know if a deal's good. So it gives you all the education you need while you're trying to build up your cash to get to that point. Because like I said, if we can't create at least 15,000 a year, I don't think you're ready for us yet. I don't, at least not to work with us one-on-one, because we want to make sure you have options. And when you have those options, it gives you a lot more freedom to be able to pick and choose what to do. But if you're not there yet, this is a great start. Like I said, it teaches not only that kind of stuff, but then we even do monthly calls live, just like this, but we actually answer questions. And so we've had some fantastic calls, answer some questions. And just so you know, guys, it's kind of intimate right now because most people don't show up live anyway. So I've had a few people show up on the call, sometimes email me questions beforehand, and I can answer their questions as if they're coaching with us one-on-one. So it's kind of cool to be able to have that benefit. So that's something to definitely look at. And it's such a low cost of entry. It's most people that do this program that learns cash flow stuff, and in addition to that, find at minimum usually at least $300 a month that they can start to improve their cash flow by. So it pays for itself usually within a couple months. So that's, I would recommend if you're not quite at that 15,000 a year passive income point on the calculator. But if you are, you need to be talking to us, and we're going to go through and kind of confirm that evaluation, right? We want to make sure we can actually deliver the results we promise. Again, we also want to make sure you're really a good fit for us, because if you're not very open, if you're kind of egotistical, I had somebody who's like, I could do better than you guys. And he said that to one of our guys on our team. I said, well, then we don't want him. Great. Have him go do his thing. The crazy thing is he hasn't done it yet. So most likely he's probably going to go gamble with that money, lose it. And then he's going to come back and say, now I don't have anything. Can you do something? And we're going to say, well, not as much as you could have done before. So yes, there's definitely great options. I recommend you talk with our cash flow evaluator, or passive income evaluator, to really see if we can actually confirm we can deliver at least 15,000. And I've seen some of those calculated results. Some of you guys are getting like 60,000, 70,000 over the next 12 months of passive income you create. Some of you are in like 6 digits, like 100,000 plus. Those get me excited. When I start seeing people like even a couple 100,000, it's like, oh my goodness, like this should be a no-brainer. You should be saying, let's do this right now. But of course, it's always your choice. We want to only work with those people that want to, really work with us and actually take action so they get those results. And that's what's important to me, is that you guys actually get the results we talk about. But let me talk about today. I mentioned with my dad where he didn't have enough money to live. He had to do everything possible. The crazy thing is, even though his health was bad, he's lived forever thanks to modern medicine. And he just turned 79 this last week. And and talking with him recently, he's just like, oh, I'm just trying to stretch my dollars out as much as I can because I just keep living. And he's at the point where he's alive, but he doesn't feel like he can live. Does that make sense? He's alive, but he doesn't feel like he can live. Again, like he's it's great. I know relationships better than it's ever been between father and son, but it's hard when now the things that he wants to do, he can't anymore. And I can't tell you how many times he probably is like, I wish I could just go fishing. If I could just go fishing, and just get out of the house and not be bedridden anymore, that would mean everything. You have a choice, guys. You could be living your life now, just like it says on my sign. Live your life now, not tomorrow. There are only so many memories you have to create. There are only so much time you have with your children before they move out and they're busy with their lives of their own. I know, because 6 of my children are teenagers and above. Like once they get moved out, or once they get in that point of teenagerhood, man, it's hard to get them to slow down. This is your time to make a difference in your life. Let me just share one last example of that. I had a client where they were paycheck to paycheck. They were strapped, but they did have assets. They did have things they could do with it. We got them to refinance their loans, actually freed up $6,000 a month just from refinancing, not even investing, just refinance their loans to help free up cash flow. $6,000 a month. You know what they did that first month? They went and they bought a four-wheeler. Now, I know almost every financial advisor would judge you for that, but understand that him and his wife, he's a chiropractor and they live out in the Plains states. And she just said, Chris, you don't understand that $6,000 four-wheeler is the best investment we've ever had. Why? Because my husband was working in his practice 5 to 6 days a week. He felt like he could not take time off. And by the time he did come back home for the weekends, we didn't really have him. He was too tired to really be engaged with us. But you know what's awesome? That $6,000 a month gave him enough permission to say, I'm going to stop working the weekends anymore. I'm actually going to have time with my family. And she's like, and that's what he did. That four-wheeler, he's now taking it every weekend with my kids. I got my husband back, and my kids, they got their father back. And guys, that's exactly what inspired me to call this company Money Ripples. Because I thought, man, what does that do? Not just for the family, Think of the children and what kind of new legacy it creates for them to see a different way of living than just working your tail off, working your 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 job day in and day out, never really getting ahead, but instead having choices, having options. Remember, cash flow creates freedom because cash flow creates options, and that's what creates more freedom in your life. That right there, when I started to see what that did for the family and what could do generations beyond them, not to mention their community and across the world as they get to live their mission and express with more money to create greater good in this world, that is what inspired me. That's why this company is called Money Ripples. It's that ripple effect that you can create when you're free, when you're not worrying about surviving day to day. You stop thinking about yourself and trying to pay your bills and just trying to survive. And you get to the point where you actually thrive. And even for those of you that say, hey, I make more than enough money, I don't have to survive. I make great income. Awesome. But I know in the deep recesses of your mind, you're saying, yeah, but when does it ever stop? When can I actually stop working? When can I have the option to stop working? Even if I love what I do, could I stop? Or what if I'm forced to stop because 2020 says we got to shut down businesses again because they're not essential? Whatever. Like, what if I could have those options in my life that have that freedom, that buy that time back? That exactly for that, guys, is the ripple effect I'm here to create. That's why I'm not just retired, living quiet and happy. That's why I'm here. I'm still happy, but I'm not being very quiet, am I? I'm here to teach that. That's what I'm here to teach you guys today. So, anyways, this point, I want to open up for questions. So, what do we have for you guys? Let's see what we got here. Okay. RW Parker says, how do we get into these opportunities? Great way to get in these opportunities. That's a great question. Is uh, actually being there, right? Being one of our VIP clients. Like I said, if you take the calculator and you see it there, and I think we put that actually that was put in the comments already. But if you take the calculator there, you can actually find out. And again, if you have at least 15,000 as a result, we'll help make the connection. Doesn't mean you have to do those deals. We're not investment advisors. We never give investment advice, but definitely we can help you in figuring that out. So this is good. Dan, I appreciate you saying that Wealth Accelerator Academy is a good program. It's definitely a great set of videos. Appreciate that. And in the comments here, we do see the download for the cash flow optimizer, I promise. So all of you guys get that. Great way to start tracking your money anyways. Mary Bell asked, how do we get that kind of money, that liquid cash flow? Like I said, the cash flow secrets, if you don't have it liquid or if you don't have the money, you're paycheck to paycheck, cash flow secrets would be great. Even if you want to take to the next level, that's where the Wealth Accelerator Academy will really help a lot. It definitely helps a ton. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, speaking of cash flow secrets, we mentioned it was $97. If you put in cash flow 10 as the coupon code, you'll actually get $10 off of that. So it's actually $87. And like I said, I even had a couple that they were literally making $1,900 a month. And we still found almost $300 a month for them. Most of it was overdraft fees that we were able to help save them by doing some planning. But those are the kind of things that we talk about there if you're truly trying to find more cash flow for sure. Let's see, other questions. Yep, definitely agree, Dan. Inflation taxes crush conventional wisdom. There is no doubt. Let's see. All right. Got some howdies. All right, other questions coming through. And I appreciate the comment I'm seeing here as well. Is made some good money, but I'm still broke. That's your story. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, you're making good money, you're still broke. Definitely these cash flow secrets, Wealth Accelerator Academy. Even if you don't have the 15,000 or more on the passive income calculator, those tips right there are huge. That's exactly what almost every one of our clients had said. They said, "I'm making good money. Where's it all going? Right? Where can I do better?" So that's why we give you those three options, right? Is that if you're just really paycheck to paycheck, you're strapped, cash flow seekers is great. If you're not quite strapped, but you're trying to get to the point of having passive income, but maybe you're not quite there on the calculator, Wealth Accelerator Academy is awesome. And like I said, we're just selling that for $997. It's great. And then of course, we've got the coaching that can go anywhere from like 7,500 up to 15 grand. But again, we don't let you in the coaching unless we know for a fact we can help you make more than what it costs. So that's kind of our pre-qualification there. Chuck says, it seems so intuitive. How do financial advisors sleep at night with poor advice? Chuck, that's a great point. For me, that was what happened for me. I did have what I tell people, I call it an integrity crisis, right? When I learned this other world, I took the red pill instead of the blue pill, and I didn't choose to wake up back in Wonderland again, or whatever it is, when I started to look at it, I said, well, I can either keep teaching a lie, which I know is a lie, it's not as good, and just justify in my mind. And here's what a lot of my friends that are still financial advisors, good-hearted people. It's not that these guys are liars at all, but the thing they'll say is, well, it's still it fills a need. Somebody still wants this, right? I still want, like, somebody still needs mutual funds or wants mutual funds. So at least I'm providing a service. And it's true. But don't ever think, and this is what I couldn't do. I couldn't promise people you'll be financially free, you'll be able to retire in X number of years by doing this strategy. Because whenever I ran the numbers, especially when I started running inflation more than 0%, it started taking money away in retirement. I mean, it got very depressing for me when I started putting in real numbers as a financial advisor. That's what really kind of pushed me over the edge. And it was that extra doubt that I had to either choose integrity or just choose my pocketbook. And I chose the latter. And I'm not saying that anybody that's a financial advisor is, like I'm better than everybody else. I'm just saying that I just couldn't reconcile that in my mind. And I can't offer something without doing it first. That's why even when I was back, in the rat race and into the recession, when I was going broke, that's why I taught people how to find and free up cash, the Cash Flow Secrets course. I taught that because that's what I was doing. I stopped teaching about passive income, started teaching about that. About 2015 or so, when I started getting back into passive income, then I started reintroducing that. So like Chuck, for you, I was starting to teach about passive income after we were talking. When I was just teaching cash flow secrets, now I'm teaching all this other stuff about it. Question about tax liens. Tax liens, they're actually a little bit tougher right now. Many of my clients that actually have, not just the clients, even my friends in the real estate industry are having a hard time with this. I would just say that's probably not the greatest option right now. There are some potential there, but now has not been the best market for tax liens. Is the coaching monthly or one-time holder? That's a great question. The coaching, if it's the Wealth Accelerator Academy, it's actually like a 6-month long process, and it's like monthly calls. On our VIP side, there's also monthly calls as well that we do just with the VIP clients, and you get the access to the Wealth Accelerator Academy too. But there's actually one-on-one coaching involved. So it's one-on-one coaching. You actually get coaching meetings with the coach, and you also get those group coaching. But it's usually like a one-time fee, and then after that, there's a monthly retainer. So, is this recorded, Chad? Yes, it is. At least it better dang well be. I think, yes, we did record it. So, yes, we are recording this. So great one. Okay, awesome, guys. Well, I know. Here's another question that came in. As someone who's this came in, says, as someone who's been taught to save and invest in capital markets, do you have any advice for overcoming the fear of doing something different and investing in alternative assets? That is a great question. How do you get over the fear of doing something different? I look at it like this. Almost everything you look at in society today, when the masses choose it, it's usually not the best idea, right? I mean, look at people financially. Are they doing well, or are they still living paycheck to paycheck? Despite all the financial information that's more abundant now than it's ever been, are people really much better off? Now, someone might argue and say, well, that's because they haven't been doing it. They're just all spenders. I'll tell you this, if you look at real statistics, not just what the judgmental Dave Ramsey of the world say, but if you look at the real statistics, 52% of people that have a 401k actually save in their 401ks. Those are the people that actually have them, that qualify for them. That doesn't include people that don't have a 401k, but then save in their other IRAs and whatnot. That doesn't include people that, like me, think 401ks suck. And so we invest in other places where we invest our cash into these other real assets that create real income. And so I like to look at evidence. This is even what got me out of the financial advising world in the first place, is that when I looked at the evidence, what are the results, the real results? Were people free or not? No, they weren't. Even the financial advisors aren't free, and they'll admit it, because I know every time I go to those little study groups, at least one person comes to me and says, hey, Chris, I know I make millions of dollars a year as a financial advisor, but can you teach me how I can retire? That's what they say, guys. Every year, one person at least will come up to me saying, I want to be able to retire like you did. How do I do it? Easy. Don't do what you're teaching. So, and that's the thing. There's been millions of us that have done this. Millions of us that have done things like real estate investing. Even people accidentally doing real estate where they're not even that good have still accidentally made money or made millions in the real estate game. If you can accidentally make money and be successful at it, I'm not saying that everybody is successful when they do it. There are people that screw it up pretty bad if they don't know what they're doing. But if people can accidentally still make it work, who says you can't do it when you actually have some education behind it? And so that's really what we try to focus on. So Holder asked, "Is it you thought it was do it yourself?" It is do it yourself with the education, but like I said, there are monthly calls that we do as a group. And like I mentioned, a lot of people that send me those questions ahead of time, I address on those calls and answer them. So it's kind of a way for you. I kind of just taught you the secret how you can get personal coaching, even if you can't qualify to get that one-on-one coaching. It's kind of a way to get at least a little bit extra coaching there. So that's why I taught you that secret there, and for everybody else because apparently this is recorded. So anyways, guys, I appreciate your time here today. If you got more questions, you can always reach out to us, moneyripples.com. There's a contact us button, but try the calculator, try it out, see what your number is. And like I said, from there, you can determine which path will be best for you. My goal for you is this, is that I want you guys to be free. I want you to be able to live your life now, not tomorrow, so that you have enough passive income to be able to be work optional, to work because you want to, not because you have to. So guys, appreciate your time today. We'll talk to you later.